Hello, it's Jodi here. It's spinning, so I'm not sure if I'm on. This happened last week. Hello, I'm live. Okay. Now I know there's an issue here, but it's live. So 30 seconds I lost there in the beginning. Hello, everyone. It's good to see you on this Monday morning. I think that is the limit that I have with this platform. If this is not going to work, I'm not doing it anymore. I'm going to go back to my phone. All right, so today we're talking about setting limits, just like you want to do with any software. If something doesn't work, it's like, why keep fiddling with it? Why keep driving yourself crazy with something? That is the same thing when we're talking about relationships with everything. You could deal with stuff that's difficult, or you could change how you deal with things that are difficult. And that's a great way to figure out how to set limits. Hi, Jenny Marie. Good morning. Say hello if you're here. Please share this, because setting limits is something that we all need to figure out how to do, because we only have so much emotional bandwidth and energetic bandwidth to deal with all the things that we have to deal with. So when we let in more, I started talking about this at the beginning of the pandemic, that we were working so hard. If you're a really sensitive person, this has been quite a year. And if you're really sensitive, and a lot of people are doing all the self-care stuff in the world and still feeling completely depleted and still feeling completely overwhelmed. So then what? So then what do we do if that's the case? And what you want to think about is, instead of trying to take everything in and then try to get rid of it, you want to stop taking stuff in. You want to stop taking stuff into your heart or into your consciousness or into your body that doesn't serve you, that's hurts you, that's toxic, that just takes bandwidth up. You want to see what you could do to stop. And some things we cannot stop taking in. We're human and we take stuff in. So it's just how to mitigate it, how to decrease how much you're taking in. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Who's interested in learning about setting limits, and what kind of issues do you all have? Remember, this is live coaching, so I just come up with a topic, but if you have a question for me, this is the time that you get to ask me your questions live, so do not hesitate. And thanks for the hearts. Give me lots. I would love them. All right, everyone. So let's talk about setting limits, because this is really interesting. If you're a person who is very, very open-hearted and you don't set that many limits, that means you're really sensitive and you get hurt a lot. Mostly, like, we're humans, so we get hurt. So that doesn't mean something's wrong with you, that you're overly sensitive. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about sensitive, not overly sensitive. When we use the word overly, we're judging it. We're just describing somebody who's sensitive and really open-hearted in a way that they get hurt a lot. Hello, Joel. And if you're like that, hi, Nikki. Thanks for the heart there, if they are not working in the other thing like last time. So if you're kind of a person who gets hurt a lot and you're really open-hearted, you want to set some limits. Now, there's some people, I made a drawing. You like my drawing? It's just a line. Wait. I need this side. Okay. So if you're somebody, this is like a whole spectrum of setting limits. This is like this end. Let's say someone has no limits whatsoever, no boundaries, and people could walk all over emotionally, mentally, physically, even spiritually, right? They have zero. This is not a real person at all. This is a continuum I'm talking about. And all the way at the other end is they're completely shut down. 100% of limits set, and nothing is penetrable into their system, right? So they've just put so many walls up. And of course, I don't know anyone who's in that extreme either, but we all kind of fit somewhere in the middle here. And I wanted to talk about, if you're someone who's so open-hearted and you let everything in and you learn, from someone like me, or from a counselor, or from a book, or from another Facebook Live that someone's talking about how to set some limits so that you don't get hurt all the time if you're an empathic person. And we have to learn how to protect ourselves a little bit and kind of block that. We don't have to be sensitive to all that stuff out there. There is something that we could do. We decide to let in. And if you believe you let everything in and there's nothing to do about it, you let everything in. But if you believe that there's something you could do about it, then there is something you could do about it. And that's what I usually teach with my, because I teach a lot of intuition, and I teach with empaths. And I have, look at a last couple of my YouTube videos when I talk about highly sensitive people. Really helpful. All right. So sometimes when people are so open-hearted, they learn to set limits and they try a little bit. They start to experiment and try a little bit, setting some limits with the people around them. Now, this is a fantastic, what a step. I mean, it takes so much bravery and so much effort to set those limits, right? But if they're really far still over here in openness, like open-hearted is a good thing, right? It's not a bad thing. I'm not making it into a bad thing. I'm not changing the meaning of the word open-hearted. But if you're open, or what's a word that I don't want to take something positive and have you think it's negative. So I hope you're getting when I'm using these caveats, you understand. If you still don't have any limits, if you still don't create boundaries for other people to, go anywhere, have access to all of you, that's better. That was a good way to describe it, right? Tell me if you get it. If you take a little step, it's wonderful. However, if you're not too far and you take a little bit of step making some boundaries, and it's huge for you, it might be really huge for you, but for other people, they still have a lot of access. For the other people in your life, they might still have a lot of access, and you still might be very hurt a lot of the time. So much so that hurt is deteriorating, it's unsustainable, it zaps a lot of your energy. So it's hard to sustain even those little limits. So you took so much to put those little limits on, and it's hard to sustain them because there's still too much getting in. Is that making sense? Hi, MK. So I'm talking about this, so you could listen ahead and see if you want to ask me any questions about what we're talking about or anything about your life. Okay, so it's unsustainable because it still takes away your energy. So this is the hard part for us in our life, but you're able to do it. It might be new, but you're able to do it. And once you start, the benefits will grow exponentially and be so helpful. You need to be able to set enough limits so that the access the people who could hurt you are so low or so unable to get into you that you have the energy to sustain it. So you have to figure out where your threshold is on the line. Where is your threshold? The fact that you have to set enough limits so that you don't get hurt and have the energy to maintain those limits that you set. So who has a question about that, or who has a question about their own life? Is that making sense? Is that landing? Are you like, what is she talking about? How do I do that? What are some practical examples? Maybe you need that. Hi, Stanley. I'm glad, Nikki. I'm glad it makes sense. So I'll put yours up here. It makes sense. Thank you. So so you want to figure that out, and that's maybe hard. Maybe this is a new thing for you to do, is figure out how to decide what limits are, especially if you haven't had a lot of experience, or when you try to set limits, people freak out a little bit. Because people who are really self-centered, when somebody tries to set limits with them, they have a bit of a problem with it, and they gaslight you, And so you feel like, oh, I made a mistake. They're angry. I made someone angry. And then you back up on the limits. That's why they did that. That's why they do that, is they know that if they gaslight you, you'll back down from the limits you set. But you have to decide. Gaslighting works mostly when you believe it, when it brings that doubt in. And of course, people who have very little boundaries are going to have a lot of doubt. Quite often the people have been traumatized in their life, so they don't deserve it. They didn't do anything, but they have a lot of self-doubt. It kind of comes with the effects of the trauma, unfortunately. And so when someone gaslights them, it lands and it works. And so they stop trying to set their boundaries. But it becomes a cycle of continued being hurt and continued low bandwidth and inability to protect yourself. So it becomes like a cycle that the only way out is to figure out how to set limits in a way that is sustainable, in a way that people can't come in. And it is absolutely possible, right? And when we're setting limits, we're not telling people what to do. You're blocking it from your field, like not in your house. This is not allowed in my house. This is not allowed around me. And this is what you have to know. This is what really is coming forth today, is like when you I missed, but I forgot what I was going with that. I hit something, but it's going to come back to me in a second. Let me answer Nikki's thing here, or not answer. She's making a comment. What was coming forth? Something was coming forth that I thought would be really easy. I think you have to think like, I'm not helping the other person. A lot of times when I'm working with someone and trying to help them learn how to set stronger limits with the people around them, they feel like it means it's unkind or something. And if you decide that allowing people that access doesn't help them, it doesn't help their higher self or their lower self. It just sustains their neediness. So it does not help them. It's like doing your kids' homework. So if you know in your heart, in your soul, that it's not helping them, you're helping them actually more by setting limits, it'll be so much easier to do. Because you always think, am I choosing me instead of them? No, don't do their homework anymore. Set your limits, and you're protecting both of you. And also, a lot of times we think like, okay, if I could just be in any kind of toxic situation, I'll just allow myself to be in any kind of toxic situation. So Jodi says I could just block it out. You've maybe seen one of my videos when I talk about how to block that energy out. And if you're like, well, I could block it out so I could do whatever. No, that's until you could get away, until you could change the context of that toxic situation or get out of the toxic situation. There are ways to kind of protect yourself while you're working on it, while you're kind of deciding what to do and how to figure out a way to get out of that context. Like anything, all of our problems, they're not like inherent inside of us. Our problems are located in the context of our life and the relationships in our life. Our problems come out of the context and relationships of our life. Yes, some of the context is in our mind. So the context around us and the context in our mind, like if we have a lot of negativity in our mind or a lot of anxiety in our mind, then of course we suffer the context that's in our mind, feeling bad. Okay, so Nikki says gaslighting works when we're overtired. Gaslighting works in so many different ways. That's why it's used since time immemorial. And that's why it's used by everybody. It's not just used by narcissists. Like a lot of people use it because it's kind of our go-to. When we're feeling a little guilty, we lash back. Kids use it with their parents. Partners use it. But if it is textbook for like a relationship where someone has power over another person, that kind of relationship, it's used in the extreme And it's used particularly to keep power over the other person. So that's exactly what I'm talking about, Nikki, on this thing. Is it upside down? Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Okay, so that's exactly what I'm talking about. If you try to set a little limits and it's something that's not sustainable because you're still being attacked and hurt, then it's easy for them to use gaslighting and make you back down, and you're back to no limits whatsoever. So you need to have enough limits that you're protected enough that you're not tired. Like you're here, you're still tired because people have access to you. If you come over here, then you're not tired. Of course, there's other reasons why you're tired. I know that. But if you have the limits here, you're less tired. It takes up less bandwidth because you're less attacked and less hurt. And the gaslighting will not affect you. If you're here and you try to do a little stuff, it's like they'll push you down, if that makes sense. They'll just keep pushing you down. Okay. So Nikki also says, sometimes accepting takes less energy to say no. Yes, in the short run. Yeah, it's like when you have kids and you're like, you want them to clean up their toys and it takes them forever and it's not really done right. And you're like, let me just pick it up tonight. I just don't have the energy to do it. And then over time, you keep picking up the toys and picking up the toys and picking up the toys, and then never works. So it's like a hurdle to get over. So I know there's a lot of other things that are taking your energy, but that's why we have to increase our emotional bandwidth so that we could do this stuff, so that we could maintain our emotional bandwidth, right? So that's why we have to do everything we can to get a robust emotional bandwidth so that we could do all these other things so that we can maintain that emotional bandwidth. And I do understand some situations are pretty extreme, and so you need a lot of support to do that. We don't do that by ourselves. We need a lot of support to do that. And that could be friendships and communities, and it could be professional, it could be anything. But we do need supports. Like, we don't do this by ourselves. We can't do this and get to here alone. Nobody can. So yeah, so that's why you of course it takes it. But like when you're parenting, if we look at that situation, when the kid if you pushed it when they were young and got them used to it, then it'd be a lot easier when they're older. So it's like there's this hurdle to go over with no energy to go over it, but then the whole rest of it is easier. So if you get in the habit of accepting, then over time, it is 10 million times more zapping of your energy and more destroying of your sense of self and yourself and everything. So it's just not worth it. It's like you find the energy that one time or that few times. And if you've done it for a long time, so like when your kids are teenagers and you never made them clean up, and now you're making I'm using this example because it's an easy example. It's not triggering necessarily trauma, as a parent. If they're teenagers and you've never had them do anything and now you want them to do stuff, the hurdle's bigger now, but you still have to be like, forget it, I'm not going to go over it, or I'm going to go over it, there's more hurdles now. Like, it's just a little more effort. When you have no energy, it's more effort up front, and then it gets easier after that. And so that's what so Nikki's saying, of course you're right, I didn't have that chance. I don't know what that means about the chance, but maybe I said something about a chance. I forgot everything I said. Oh my gosh, I'm going on and on and on. How is this helping everybody? How is this landing? Anybody have any questions at all for me? I've given you lots of time to type some in. I feel like there's a lot of negativity in the field still. It seems a little bit better, a little bit less fighting discourse, but they're still there. But and a little less fear because we got some hope coming with this immunization in the U.S. and hopefully a lot of other places are really starting to dip in, to give it away or immunize people. So I think there's a lot of hope coming in the field. I do feel that. Yeah. And so you could feel the negativity, you could feel the positivity, but what are you going to focus on? What are you going to hold tight and hold precious and pray for and hope for and meditate on? What are you going to do? The negative or the positive? So I guess if no one has any questions, I should go because I've been talking a long time. No one wants to listen to a really long video. Anyway, you could see right here is the URL to my Let It Go MP3. It's brand new. Yeah, so it's my brand new MP3 to help people let go. I might add some things to that because there is so much that we really need to, we need to really come together, but we really need to, I really wish robust was a verb. I want to say like robustify. Like I keep wanting to for the last couple of months, like we need to robustify. And so I think I have to figure out how to, what's a word? Anybody know a word for robustify? That's a verb. Montana, you're working on boundaries. Good. That's so good. It will change your whole life. You're working on recovery and acceptance, but anxiety is really spiking. Really trying to trigger panic. Is this normal? So your anxiety is trying to trigger your panic. That's what anxiety does. It wants you to panic, right? Anxiety wants you to worry. It wants you to be stressed, wants you to be upset, wants you to preoccupy yourself with it. It wants to be the beacon for all of your attention. So of course it's going to try to trigger panic. I don't know if that's what you mean when you say that. Is it normal? Yes, anxiety wants you to be scared. It wants you to panic. It wants you to suffer. It wants you to worry. It wants you to give it your undivided attention. Worst thing that you could do. Don't give your anxiety your undivided attention. Watch my videos. Thanks, Christina. Watch my videos. Get my anxiety program. If you want, jodiama.com/anxiety. All my books and programs on anxiety are there for you. I have so many resources. Don't stay anxious. Get yourself some help. Christina says, robustify equals strengthen. I love that picture of you too. How cute is this picture? Strengthen. Yeah. I wanted something like thicker than strengthen, but I love strengthen, so I'm going to use it. All right, everyone. Okay, I love you. I will see you next Monday. If you have anything that you want me to talk about, please bring it up before then. Yeah, I think self-care is going to be something I really focus on in February. So I'm going to take you down that journey with me. All right. So first, there's so much stuff we have to take care of ourselves and clear out and clear out and clear out. And so I thought first we'll start with, okay, don't take all that junk in that you don't want to take in. Then we have to get rid of it later. Oh, thank you, Montana. Montana says that she's gifted my book, You Win Anxiety Zeros, to so many friends. I hope it saved them. I really do. All right. Again, let me say goodbye before someone else says anything, but I love it. I love all the comments. Keep commenting. Keep sharing this with people because we need this right now. It's February, and this year, we really want to make a difference this year and change how we feel and how we behave and how we relate so that we could make the world a better place. All right, I'll see you next week. But until then, be present and let that you want to be shine through.